Hey, what's up, fight fans? It's Will here once again for another fight card prediction, and we are going to be breaking down UFC on Fox, Poirier versus Gaetjhe from Glendale, Arizona, my old stomping ground. I used to stay there. I stayed there for just shy of 5 years. My aunts lived in Arizona for nearly 30 years. So yeah, it's pretty exciting that Arizona's getting another card. It's just a great place in America that I love very much. I have to get back out there very soon. Coming off the debacle pretty much, which was UFC 223, from the Sunday that Tony Ferguson was announced out, Max Holloway came in. There was the incident with Conor McGregor, which was crazy. Then Max, it looked like he was going to make weight, but then the commission pulled him, and Perez was going to step in. Felder wasn't ranked, so he couldn't step up. And then eventually Ali Quinta got the decision to move up to the main event, and Khabib, I didn't think he looked overly great, but still won 50-43 on some cards. And overall, I thought the card was actually pretty decent. There was some definite bright spots in there. I thought the co-main event was awesome. I thought Zabit for the first couple of rounds looked awesome. Renato Moicano I thought looked amazing. So yeah, but as always, thank you for checking me out last week and watching and just listening to my aspects in the fight. It was a bit of a weird week. I wanted to get an Ayaquinta video out for that fight prediction. I just couldn't find time with work and so on. But hopefully, we've got 14 fights in this card. Hopefully they all stay there. Nothing falls off. I like it for a DraftKings perspective. I think 14 fights is a lot of choice for that, so it'd be pretty cool. I haven't seen any odds. I've not looked. I'm not going to look. But just looking at the matchups and the fights that I've kind of looked at really closely, I think it's going to be a close and a hard card to bet on personally. But we'll see. I had a good week betting last week. I bet Moicano. I bet Khabib over 1.5, which was plus 125, which was crazy. And I lost on Joanna. But I still had a profitable night, so hoping it continues here. But like I say, I think it's a really solid card. There's a lot of really solid matchups, and yeah, I'm looking forward to watching this. I think it starts early. I'm going to miss probably the Fight Pass portion of the card due to work commitments, not unless I have an easy night, which very rarely happens. So I should be back for the prelims and then the main card, because the Fox cards always seem to start early. So I'm going to try and get this through this as quick as I can for you guys. So starting off in the bantamweight division with Luke Sanders against Patrick Williams. This should be a good fight for Luke Sanders here, but I've said that in the past, and he's went out there and dropped the ball, to say the least. In that fight with Sukumtath, I thought he had an opportunity there, but got caught with a big shot. There was a fight against Yuri Alcantara, which I thought he looked like he was going to finish him there, and then he got finished. I know for a fact he's not training. He's predominantly out of Arizona. He comes from the MMA lab, but I think he's been more in California for this one. I think he goes out with that Becky Lynch who's in the WWE, who I think she predominantly keeps herself in California, so I think he spends most of his time out there. So interesting. I think he's been going to different gyms and so on. But Patrick Williams, we all know the story of this guy. He's got initial burst, and he can put you away in that initial burst, and he could put Luke Sanders away with that initial burst. But then he fades very badly, wide open for shots. So I think what Luke Sanders has to really do here is just kind of keep it simple, pick his shots, don't get over aggressive, and especially in the first round, and let Patrick Williams really just wear himself out, because he will do it. He's got a terrible gas tank. But honestly, Luke Sanders is a guy I don't think you can overly trust, being honest with you. I think he's a decent fighter, and when he shows up he is good. I think in the Blanco fight, that was a really good fight to introduce himself to the UFC. He was good before he came into the UFC, but he's kind of dropped the ball a little bit. He's not a guy you can trust, but I trust him enough here to at least survive a round, and then being able to take out Patrick Williams when he starts to fade badly. So I'm going to go Luke Sanders. I think he will catch Patrick Williams, maybe even towards the end of the first round with a clean shot. Once it goes into that second round, I think he will just take out Patrick Williams. But don't sleep on Patrick Williams, because he has got that kind of attitude where he could catch you in something in the first round, or he could put you down and could put you to sleep. But I cannot pick Patrick Williams. I'm going to pick Luke Sanders. I'm going to pick him via second round TKO. Staying in the bantamweight division, this is a fight I'm really looking forward to. Matthew Lopez against Alejandro Perez. I'm a fan of Matthew Lopez. I liked him before he went to the UFC. I think he's a good fighter. I just don't think he's fully shown his potential yet. I think he had a rough start with that fight with Rainey, where I thought he looked really good, but then got caught, and then he's looked solid since then. Guy who comes out of it, he's from Arizona, trains out of Colorado there with Justin Gaethje, I think is one of them. But he has won some decent fights. I mean, he knocked out Johnny Eduardo, I think that was down in Brazil at 212. Mitch Gagnon, who's a guy that just doesn't fight, so that's a decent win. But I thought actually did think the win, the loss to Rainey, he looked decent before getting caught in the third round with an arm triangle, and then he got knocked out against Rafael Assunção, who is one of the most underrated fighters in the whole entire UFC, and just doesn't get the respect that he deserves there. So predominantly a wrestler, he's got that wrestling background, so I think this is what he's going to try and have to do here, because I think Perez is going to be on his feet. It's going to be hard to really get a hold of and get himself to the ground. There's a good the boys at Best Fight Picks always call him the Weasel. He weasels decisions, and it's very, very, very much true. He did it against Sukumtath, where I thought Sukumtath won that. He definitely won a clear decision against Yuri Alcantara, in my opinion. Had a close fight with Albert Morales before beating Ian Entwistle, but we're going back like 2 years before that there. I think he's a decent fighter. Nothing really shows out, and he fights close fights. I personally think in this one here that Matthew Lopez is... I think he's going to garner takedowns. I think on the feet, like I say, I think that Perez is going to be on his bike, he's going to be moving, and he's going to be hard to... Sorry, I just record this before it starts. There we go. I think he's going to be hard to catch and hard to really put against the cage and get him down. So he has to try and, I think, use his striking to get into range where he could potentially go for a double leg takedown or potentially push him against the cage to get that takedown. I see this being very close. Initially when I saw the card, and before I looked at a couple of fights of these guys, I thought I really want to bet Matthew Lopez, and like I say, I don't know the odds for this, so I'm not going to go into it just yet. But I've kind of reined myself back in. I don't know whether I trust him that much. I might have to go back and watch a couple of fights again, see if I can maybe gain some trust in him. But I am a fan of his. I think he's got a tough matchup here. I can see Perez winning rounds because that's what he does, and he wins close fights. I'm going to go Matthew Lopez via split decision. I think it wouldn't surprise me if a judge gives a round to... gives a card, to Alejandro Perez, but I'm more confident in picking... Oh, actually, I'm going to go Matthew Lopez. That was my gut feeling pick, so I'm going to stick to that. So Matthew Lopez via a very, very close split decision there. Heavyweight division, Aryan Bula against Adam Wieczorek. Both guys, honestly, I was not impressed with in the UFC debuts. I just didn't think they were that great. They both won their fights, and saying that, Aryan Bula won his fight over who was that again? Luis Enrique, which I think is a decent win because Enrique can be a little bit troublesome. He's a strong guy, but I thought that Aryan Bula did what he had to do and got himself a decent win. Wieczorek an absolute sweat. I bet Adam Wieczorek against Anthony Hamilton was, in hindsight, a terrible bet. And for that, I'll be staying well away from him. I don't think he's an overly great fighter. I think if he gets top position on Bula, which I don't think he will, I think he could cause him problems. I think on the feet, I think that Bula will be a little bit quicker. I think he's got a little bit of a better chin. And I do think he's the better wrestler. I think he's trained a lot with DC. He's made a lot of trips over there to California to work with him there. So that's kind of how I expect this to go. I see a lot of kind of cage clinching up against the cage, and potentially Bula getting a couple of takedowns. Whether he keeps Wieczorek there is another thing. I see this being sloppy over 3 rounds, and I see Bula winning a decision there. So I'm going to go Aryan Bula to win probably a 29-28 or 30-27. I see it being a sloppy fight though. Welterweight division. This is an interesting one. Dhiego Lima versus Yushin Okami. I haven't really been on social media all that much. I went in earlier on and typed up UFC Glendale, which will be the hashtag for this card, and seen some people talking about how Yushin Okami is going to run through Dhiego Lima, and I'm like, really? I don't see it that way at all. I think that this is potentially a really good fight for Dhiego Lima to get the win in the UFC, another win in the UFC. Coming off the tough show, had a really good showing on there before running into Jesse Taylor. I thought he gave a decent performance himself there before getting caught in the second round. Where I worry about this guy is against big power hitters, because the guy, it doesn't take a hell of a lot to really hurt this guy and put him down. Yushin Okami, I don't think it's that guy. He's a wily veteran. This is his second stint in the UFC. I mean, he's 36, 37 years old. He's been around the block. He's a big 170. Big 170. Yeah, big. This is a 170, isn't it? Yeah. So, he's a big guy for that division. It's a bad cut for him, I'm sure, coming down there, but he does it professionally because he is a true professional. Doesn't really stand. It's just a solid mixed martial artist, this Yushin Okami. He came back into the UFC short notice against Ovince St. Preux and got caught in that Von Flue choke that OSP likes to call it. Before that, he beat Andre Lobato. Decent win over Paul Bradley. It was a close split decision. And then he fought a couple of fights over there in his native land in Japan. I think that on the feet, I think that Lima is the quicker striker. Like I say, both guys really aren't known for their striking all that much. I think that Lima probably just has the better striking. Okami's never been overly decent with his striking, in my opinion, from the years that I've watched him. But he's a very serviceable fighter across many, many aspects of the game. And he's just a tough fighter to face, and it's a big fight here for Lima. I think he can take him down. I think he can maybe potentially keep him there, but I see this being another kind of close fight again, where it's hard to kind of trust the guy you're picking, in my opinion, unless you have a really strong read. When I was watching fights, I thought one guy that I did like was Lima. I thought I had a strong read, watched Okami, and Okami's just hard to look good against, and he's kind of hard to put away too. So I'm going to go Dhiego Lima. I'm going to go by another decision here. I'm going to pick him. Yeah, I'm going to pick him via decision. I was going to pick him, in fact, submission. I'm going to go for a submission. There we go. I'll go Dhiego Lima, third round submission there. And but it's a close fight. But he is a guy that I actually thought about betting. But it's hard to trust, because literally if you hit the chin one time with a half decent shot, even if Okami did it, he would put him down. So Lima for the win there. Women's flyweight division, Shana Dobson against Lauren Mueller. Honestly, I literally, this was the last fight I watched before jumping on here, was Lauren Mueller. I must admit, I was impressed in her fight on the Dana White show, the Contender Series. I thought she took it on very short notice. Very aggressive, in your face, puts you against the cage, tries to throw elbows. I think Kelly McGill, her opponent, her defence was kind of lacking a little bit. She was throwing shots but then dipping her head down. And Lauren Mueller was really just countering that with a high kick, and was hitting her with a couple of shots. She caught her with the shin a couple of times. Did fade a little bit, and just I thought looked okay, personally, in my opinion. I saw this is one of the lines I did hear about. I had a friend who he watches MMA. He's not into it as much as I am, but he always sends me texts to see like certain things that he wants to bet or certain fights. And he said about Lauren Mueller, and she opened like a really big favourite. I think she was like minus 170 or minus 180. I don't know where my phone is. And he texts me back like a few hours later. These are obviously odds in the States, so they're not out over here in the UK yet. And it was she was plus 100, I think she was. So money's coming in Shana Dobson there. Shana Dobson, in my opinion, I don't think I mean, Roxanne Modafferi did the business on the tough show. I think Ariel Beck, who she faced in her official UFC debut, did not look good, but she got the finish. And she's got that experience of being in the UFC, fighting under the big lights. Mueller, to an extent, has that, but is not fought in like a stadium like Shana Dobson did. But I did like what I've seen from Lauren Mueller. I'll be honest with you, this is a fight. I just think it's a hard fight to tell you. I've only watched I think I watched 2 fights of Dobson, and in fact it was 3 fights. So I watched the Montano fight and 2 of Lauren Mueller. She's like 4-5-0 she is now. So I'm going to pick Lauren Mueller. I think she's a little bit more aggressive fighter here. I think she's got that full fight camp. This was a fight that was announced a long time ago. So I don't know, it's hard to pick this one. I'm not confident. It's going to my least confident picks, but I'm going to pick Lauren Mueller. I think she could possibly stop Shana Dobson. Possibly, but I'm going to go decision because it's a women's fight, and it's the most logical reason, probably. That's where it'll go. So, Lauren Mueller via decision there. And moving on, Gilbert Burns against Dan Moret in the featured fight, the UFC Fight Pass prelims. When I was looking at Dan Moret there, he's a late participant in this here. I think Lando Venato was supposed to come in, then he wasn't, then he was, and then officially he wasn't. Moret, I think he's a guy that really, when I watched him, I thought, right, this is a guy that probably shouldn't be in the UFC. He should be on maybe the Dana White Contender Show, which is coming back very, very soon, I believe. I think he'd be a perfect guy to have on there with his record. I think it's 13-3, and that would give him the opportunity to maybe get into the UFC. But he got the call here against Gilbert Burns. Now, Gilbert Burns is the guy I've been high on for a long time. I thought he was going to be really, really good. It's turned out he's really not that great, and he's just, like I say, not that great, but he has got that defining factor of jiu-jitsu, and if he can find it to the mat and get Moret down there, which I think he can, even though he's not a good wrestler. The one thing with Moret, I think he's got a good jab. I think he uses a good jab, and he tries to establish that with his kicks behind it, but he just doesn't, in my opinion, commit to it all that much, and is open, I think, for getting taken down. I think his offensive wrestling is actually pretty decent, but I think his defensive wrestling and his guard work has got a lot to be desired. Now, most of his wins are via submission, is Moret, but that's from being in the top position and having the advantageous positions as well. So, I don't know. He's coming off that. Gilbert Burns is coming off that win over Jason Sago, lost to Michel Pereira, beat Lukas Juszkiewicz. So he's won fights. He's did okay. I mean, he beat Alex Oliveira, who I think is a good fighter, even though that was a kind of Hail Mary, come from behind win in the third round. On the feet, I think he gets hit with too many shots. I don't think Moret's going to really... I don't think he's going to really beat him up on the feet. So I think that Burns has the opportunity to potentially get this to the ground. And I think once he gets it to the ground, that game of his, ground game, jiu-jitsu game of his, is going to really put Moret in a lot of trouble there, and that's kind of how I see this going. Like I say, he has knocked out Jason Sago in his last fight. Big shot there, could potentially happen. I think he's just going to find a way to get this fight to the ground and sub the guy. I do love, and I still go back and watch some of the Gilbert Burns jiu-jitsu matches. He's a guy that I think is just underachieved in the UFC, but he does have that game, and he can rely on that if he gets it to the ground. So I'm going to pick Gilbert Burns via submission. Round number 1? Late round 1, early round 2, in that region there. Moving on to the Fox prelims here. Starting off in the middleweight division. This is a really tough fight to pick. Both guys I like, just for the fact I think they're solid fighters. Don't stand out in many aspects of the game, but are really solid in the whole aspect of the game. So, Kryzstof Jotko against Brad Tavares. Initial lean for me here was Brad Tavares when I heard this fight, and I think when the fight was announced, I watched one Brad Tavares fight. I think it was Elias Theodore. I liked that performance there. Thought he did enough against... Elias, a really awkward guy to fight because I don't think he's that great. I shouldn't be saying that. I think he's decent, but nothing really stands out. So yeah, I think he did enough to win that fight there, because Elias can win very close fights, and he came in there and won that fight. People were saying that Elias got robbed, which was like, whoa, seriously? Kryzstof Jotko's a guy I've seen a few times over here in Europe. I was really high on him, and he started to fade off a little bit. That loss to David Branch has really kind of taken the wind out of his sails a little bit, and he followed that up by losing to Uriah Hall, which is never a good thing when you lose to Uriah Hall, because saying that, when Uriah Hall shows up, he's a hard guy to beat, but I just don't think he showed up, and I think he gave Uriah Hall too many opportunities to get off, and eventually Uriah Hall got off and he got taken out. Like I say, Brad Tavares is coming off very close wins over Thales Leites, the Elias Theodoro one, and there was also Kyle Magalhães, which he won that one at UFC 203, which was a very close split as well. Before that, he lost to Robert Whittaker, who knocked him out, which is not a bad thing considering that Robert Whittaker is now the champion, but that was nearly 3 years ago. I don't know what to do with this fight and where I go. I think I've changed my pick a couple of times when I've watched a few fights. I think, like I say, both guys are really good in a lot of aspects of the game. I think that Tavares is hard to take down. I think he's hard to keep down. And I think that Jotko is pretty sneaky good getting people to the ground and keeping them there. I've seen that in the Thales Leites fight when he went down to Brazil and did the business down there. I'm going to pick Kryzstof Jotko, but honestly, not confident at all. I think that I like Tavares as a fighter a lot as well. Oh, this is a really tough fight for me to pick. I'm going to pick Jotko. I think it's going to be a split. I think it's going to be really, really close. I think I can see people on Twitter shouting robbery, this shit and that shit. So, but honestly, I think it's a really tough fight between two very, very well-matched fighters. So, Kryzstof Jotko for me via decision, close split decision there. Moving on, we are in the flyweight division. This is the fight I'm looking forward to. Wilson Reis against John Moraga. John Moraga's fighting at home here in Arizona, coming off that massive knockout of Magomed Bibulatov. That kind of came out of nowhere. Nobody was picking that guy. I seen nobody picking John Moraga, and he came out there and he starched Bibulatov, and that was a big surprise. That's why you got to be careful when these guys come up, like with Zabit, that you don't put all your chips on this guy, and because stuff like this happens. He looked decent in that fight against Mokhtarian before, but he should have finished that guy. He's not a good fighter, in my opinion. But his losses are to legit guys like Sergio Pettis, Joseph Benavidez, I think, was one as well. So he's losing to really, really good fighters. There was talk that he was going to retire before that Mokhtarian fight, and obviously he's got his confidence back from that. Matthias Nicolai, that's another loss, who's a really top guy. They're all top 7-8 guys, probably top 5 guys. In my opinion, I like all 3 guys in that division. But yeah, I think it's a big fight for him here against another veteran in Wilson Reis. So it's a fight I really like watching, actually, Wilson Reis. I think he's from the Cage Warriors days, came in and established himself in the UFC, but he's also coming off losses to decent guys. Henry Cejudo absolutely knocked him out cold. Demetrius Johnson caught him and submitted him. So he needs a win here. So this is going to be a close, edgy affair in my opinion. Wilson Reis, I think, has got some really decent leg kicks, whereas John Moraga has some really good hands. When he puts them together, he's got some confidence now, so he might actually start to throw more combinations and get in close and fire. Sometimes I think he doesn't fire enough, in my opinion. Wilson Reis, I think he just has to get in, get his shots off, and look to try and... This would be interesting if it goes to the ground, because Moraga's no slouch on the ground, in my opinion, but I do see Wilson Reis being the better guy on the ground, kind of technically wise, but it's close down there. Wilson Reis is actually a guy I was thinking bet maybe in this guy. Like I said, I don't know the odds, but I will look at it closer. I will watch probably a couple more fights to see if I can get a determined fact. I have one bet for this card, which I'll talk about later on. Close fight, goes to decision. I don't see anybody getting finished here, so I'm going to go Wilson Reis to beat the kind of hometown boy here via another very, very close 29-28 decision. Welterweight division, this is a fight I really don't give a monkey's about, if I'm being honest with you. It's Muslim Salikhov against Ricky Rainey. I was looking forward to this fight when Al Hassan was supposed to be fighting Salikhov. Lots of people, including myself actually, where initially I was pretty high on Salikhov, and then I watched he fought a lot in China and starched a lot of guys over there, and you're like, oh, this guy looks really, really good. But then when I watched Alex Garcia, I thought, this guy he's going to lose. I can tell he's going to lose. And Alex Garcia came out there and hurt him, put him to sleep. and he was a huge underdog. I put money on Alex Garcia, so I was really, really chuffed with that. Whereas a lot of people were really super duper high on Muslim Salikhov, and me, I just did not see after I watched Alex Garcia. I thought there's holes in his game that a veteran like Garcia is going to take advantage of, and initially he came out there and he did that. Ricky Rainey is a guy that I've watched for years. He got starched by MVP back in Bellator. God, that'd be a while back now, because that's well, I was going to say that's when MVP was fighting Khans, but MVP's really always been fighting Khans. 2014, and then he's kind of bounced about. He was in Bellator for a while. Pretty much majority of his career has been in Bellator. Decent striker. Has been knocked out, has been submitted, so that's something you have to look out for. Very long reach here. I think he's got a 9-inch reach advantage in this fight. Muslim Salikhov has got a really good kicking game, so he's going to have to get into range with Ricky Rainey here. I think he will do that, but I think he might take a couple of shots from Rainey. He's got a really accurate kind of laser left straight down the pipe, which he can hurt you with. I don't think he uses his range all that well, but I just see Salikhov getting inside and hurting him with strikes. I think he's open to leg kicks as well, which I think Salikhov should try and use to his advantage here. Ricky Rainey, I think he's coming here on short notice. 34 years old. I don't see much of a ceiling for him in the UFC, if I'm being blatantly honest. So I think this is a win for, I think I'm like 75-80% confident that Muslim Salikhov can win this fight, but never in the month of Sundays will I ever bet Muslim Salikhov, because I think he can be put against the right guys. He can be put away, but I think he catches Ricky Rainey in this one and puts him away for a TKO win. I'm just not overly that confident, but I'm going to go Muslim Salikhov, second round TKO victory there. And a very interesting kind of main fight for the prelims here in the middleweight division. Tim Boetsch against Antonio Carlos Jr. Tim Boetsch, I thought he was kind of on his way out. I didn't think the UFC were going to re-sign him after that loss to, I think it was Gaetjhe actually. He was in his last fight of his deal, and I think I even put out on social media, I'll be surprised if the UFC maybe sign him, because he's a guy that, he's had some great wins in the UFC. I mean, the knockout of Rafael Natal, obviously the Okami one from back in the day, but anybody that he steps up against, like a Dan Henderson, I think it is, he stepped up and got knocked out in that one. Jacare's got him a couple of, got him in that one as well. He got him out of there really, really quick. Tally's Laty's got him. Luke Rockhold got him. So anybody that's fairly decent in there, he beat the ghost of Johnny Hendricks last time out, caught him with a head kick, followed up with punches, put him out there in the second round. That was, I think it was back in the summer last year, so he's been out a little bit. I don't know whether he's been treating injuries or just taking a bit of time off and improving his skills and sharpening what he already has. Antonio Carlos Jr., I think he's coming. Excuse me. I think he's coming into his own. I think he's found a really good team out there at American Top Team, where we've seen some people last week go there, and Moicano's out there, and they're putting a really solid team together. And he's coming off 4 wins. Gamirez, Vettori, which I think is a good win. Eric Spicely, Jack Marshman. Guys I think he should be beaten, and he is beating them, but he's starting to finish people, and he's got that legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game. He's got a heavy top game. I think his striking's decent. Nothing really stands out for it, but I think it's enough to trouble people. I think Boetsch has the bigger power, so he has to be very careful. But I think you can get at Tim Boetsch on the ground. I think you can dominate him down there personally. I think you can, if you can get him in positions, especially if you can get his back. If Carlos de Zapato gets his back here, I think he will ride out the round easily if he wants to, but I think he will look for the finish and potentially get him from there. Like I say, you can't out Tim Boetsch, and I know there's a couple of people that's going to be, I think it's already bet Tim Boetsch that I've seen on Twitter. I can't remember what the odds were, but I think they were pretty high if I remember, maybe over the 200s. Could be wrong. Like I said, I didn't pay close attention. I think that Carlos de Zapato, I think this is going to be the coming out part here, where he gets his biggest win of his kind of resume here. Yeah, I'm going to go Carlos de Zapato to win via submission. I'm going to pick him. I think it's going to be bit of a back and forth kind of first couple of rounds, but eventually I think he gets it to the ground and he finds his submission. So I'm going to go Cara de Zapato, third round submission via rear naked choke in that one there. So, but like I say, be careful if you're betting Cara de Zapato because Tim Boetsch can show up and just ruin the party there. But I'm going to go with Carlos Jr. for the win. Moving on to the 4-fight main card, starting off in the women's strawweight division with the karate hottie Michelle Waterson against Courtney Casey. I like watching Courtney Casey fight. I think she's got some skills, but I think she's got some terrible fight IQ as well. And I think she had an opportunity to beat. When she shows up, she can really put it on girls. I think she did that against Randa Marcos, where she came in there, absolutely beat upon her for the first 4 minutes or so of that fight, and then got a verbal submission. Claudia Gadelha, I thought she gave a good account of herself. I think that you could definitely see the class between Gadelha and Casey. I mean, she nearly took that full kick when she was down the ground, which was a kind of squirrely situation there. Jessica Aguilar, she kind of beat her off her back as well with some crazy leg kicks, and Aguilar was so stupid, even attempting to come forward and initiate jump into a guard, and was just getting kicked really, really badly. And then she lost a very, very close kind of decision with Felice Herrig, where it was a little bit of bad blood between the two. They were spitting each other, spitting blood at each other. And Felice is in a good frame at the minute. I thought that next level up of fighters like Kovacevic or Andrade, it really showed last week, and Herrig's between your 7 to 12 fighter in my opinion, and that's all she really ever will be. So beating people like Courtney Casey has to be on there if you want to be in that range. I think she's a decent shot here actually of beating Michelle Waterson. Waterson, I think she's definitely undersized in this fight because Casey is a big girl. I think she will be at a range disadvantage here. I don't know. I'm just trying to think how she's going to win this fight. Is she going to fight at distance or trying to... Oh, sorry, not fight at distance. Is she going to try and get into the range of Courtney Casey? Because Casey will go into clinch wars and she'll start throwing shots. I think she can be taken down from there against the right opponent. So maybe she might fight smart in this one like she did in the kind of Magana fight where she grappled most of that one. And when she got into a grappling situation with Paige Van Zandt, she did that as well. Losses to Tisha Torres, lost to Rose Namajunas. So clearly she's not in that upper echelon of fighters in my opinion. I thought the fight with Tisha Torres was close, but Tisha is a really hard fighter to beat in my opinion. She's got a lot of really good skills and overall game. This should be a fighter she should beat, but I'm not confident at all really. It's hard to pick Courtney Casey because I just don't think when she turns up, she's good, but I'm just not convinced she's going to show up all that often. But like I say, I think Karate Hottie is there to be got at. I'm going to pick Michelle Waterson. I'm not confident though, and I actually think that Courtney Casey has a big opportunity here, but she's nearly a 500 fighter with a record, is Courtney Casey, if I remember right, because she has lost a few in the UFC. Let's see what her record is. I can't remember. 7-5, so she's nearly a 500 fighter, just above that. Like I say, I can't trust her to turn up and be like she was in that Randa Marcos fight. I'm going to go split decision for Michelle Waterson. I'm not overly invested in the fight. A little bit surprised it's on Fox portion here. I would have put someone like De Zapato on there, like Carlos Jr., and try and build him, because I don't think Waterson and Casey are really going to go anywhere. So I'm going to pick Michelle Waterson for the win there, but not confident. Marvin Vettori against the Stylebender, Israel Adesanya. Must admit, really liked Adesanya in his debut. I thought he came through a couple of hairy parts of that fight where Wilkinson, obviously with Adesanya, you don't really want to give him space and let him fire off, because if he does, he will fire at will and he will hurt you. Big strikes. Obviously a kickboxer, Muay Thai guy, seen him for many years fighting in Glory. Showed that he got taken down and then he got back to his feet, and then eventually those range of strikes started to take the toll and they started to pay off. and then he annihilated him with knees and punches to get the TKO victory there. Really super confident guy, really lengthy striker, a really good addition to the division in my opinion. But he did beat someone like Rob Wilkinson, and I don't overly rate Rob Wilkinson that much. Got a step up here in my opinion against Marvin Vettori. The shine I had for the kid has kind of wore off a little bit. I think he's got some gas tank problems. I think that he's got some skills, but I just don't think he fights all that smart. And I think he's there to be got at. I think once he starts to fade, I think Adesanya is going to start pinging him. I think Vittori's game plan has to be try and clinch him up here and try and get into the ground and put Adesanya on his back. And let's see what he's got from there. I think he might start like that, like kind of Rob Wilkinson fight where he will control against the fence and he might get him down. But I think eventually he's going to start fading and he's not going to be as strong and he's not going to be able to keep Adesanya off him. And once he gets that range, he's going to start picking at will. There's a reason this fight's on the main card here on Fox. They want the fans to see this guy because he's got the potential to be a decent attraction in that middleweight division. I just think the striking, the accuracy, the versatility of Adesanya's striking is really going to come to the fore here. And I think if he could take out Marvin Vettori here, I think it would be... Plus, I don't think Vettori looked that good against Akhmedov last time out as well. So I'm going to go Adesanya. I see it's hard to finish Marvin Vettori, but I think he will do it in this one here. So I'm going to pick Israel Adesanya to win late in round number 2 via TKO victory there. Co-main event. This is going to be a good fight. It was supposed to be Carlos Condit against Matt Brown. And I was thinking when Matt Brown pulled out, right, who are they going to get to replace him? I was thinking somebody that's known, but maybe an easier fighter than what he got. Alex Oliveira, I think, is a bad matchup for Carlos Condit. I do think that Alex Oliveira's coming back a little bit quick. I think it was an orbital injury he had against Yancy Medeiros where he got hit in the nose in that third round, then he got taken out. But that fight was just blood and guts. It was balls to the wall. It was just a really, really vicious fight to watch where both guys got dropped and it was back and forth. It was one of the best fights of last year. Carlos Condit looked a shell of himself, maybe a shell of himself, or really just rusty against Neil Magny. And I couldn't believe the confidence some people had in Carlos Condit. They were thinking it was going to be the old natural born killer. It was far from it. I thought he just looked... he was just outclassed by Neil Magny and just unanimously beaten. Coming off 3 fights, he hasn't won a fight in nearly 3 years, and that was against Thiago Alves. I think this is a tough fight for him here because I don't think he will be able to stop the forward momentum or the pressure of Alex Oliveira, not unless he finds a big strike to hit him with. But I'm just not overly confident he's going to be able to stop the forward pressure of Alex Oliveira. Now, the big thing here is that this is a short notice fight, so Oliveira is probably going to show signs of fatigue somewhere through this fight if he doesn't finish him early, and that's where maybe Carlos Condit can come into him and start picking him apart. I just think the physicality of Cowboy is really going to play a defining factor in this one here, and if he can be in top position and Carlos Condit is having all that weight on top of him, I think it's going to be a really bad night for him. I think he'll end up losing the decision or potentially getting stopped, actually, because I think there is opportunities with Carlos Condit to submit him, and someone like as strong and as nasty as what Cowboy Oliveira is, he could find a submission and choke the guy out. I'm seeing people going all in on Oliveira, and I like the play, but I think you have to be a little bit cautious with this going into the later rounds. But in saying that, it's Carlos Condit, and he's not looked the same. That Robbie Lawler fight took a hell of a lot out of him, and he just didn't look good against Damian Maia. Magny, I just thought he didn't look good at all. I'm going to go with my initial gut feeling when I seen the fight announced and I seen who was stepping in. I thought, I really like Oliveira there. I think a lot of people will bet Alex Oliveira. I don't know what like I said, I keep going on about it. I don't know the odds for it, but I think that a lot of people will bet Alex Oliveira in this fight. So I'm going to pick him. I'm going to pick him via submission, actually. I'm going to pick him to stop the natural born killer, and this may be the last we see of Carlos Condit there, because I think that he's just shown. I think he's still quite a young guy, but he's shown signs of being in the sport a long time. He's been in a lot of grueling fights, a lot of fun fights as well. I mean, I think this is like 43rd, 44th fight here, so he's been in a lot of fights. I'm going to pick Cowboy Oliveira. I think the physicality is going to be the big thing here, so I'm going to go early round 2 submission there for Cowboy Oliveira. And the main event of the night. Whoa, what a fight this is. This is the fight, when I saw this, I was like, the very first words that came out was, fuck yes. Great fight. I've got a bet on for this one, and I'll say who it is at the end when I reveal my winner. I think I was a little bit quick on jumping on the line. I think the line surprised me. I thought the line would go up, and the line has kind of petered out a little bit and went down, but I think I looked at it, I went too quick and never looked at the fight and never looked at the aspects of who could win, and I'm sitting here a couple of days out from the fight, I'm thinking I maybe made a mistake betting it, but I'm going to stick with it obviously, and I'm going to stick with the guy who I'm picking. We'll start off with Justin Gaethje. He's coming off his first loss of his career, and it was a pretty vicious knockout in a knockout dragon fight against Eddie Alvarez, where he had opportunities. He had Eddie hurt, but I think he's got an overall good game. He just doesn't use it. I think there's wrestling there that he can easily use, but he just loves to brawl, and I think that caught him with Eddie Alvarez. The one thing I like in this fight here, I think he's going to change up a little bit. I don't think he's going to want to stand, because if him and Poirier stand, it's going to be an absolute war. Both guys could go down, because we have seen both guys now go down. But I just think that he might try and mix up this fight. I think that people are thinking it's going to be a war. This is how I think. I think Justin Gaethje is going to come out and want to wrestle Dustin Poirier. And I maybe see Poirier want to do the same. Poirier did that in that fight with Anthony Pettis last time. He pushed him up against the cage. Beautifully timed takedowns. Now, like I was saying last week, Anthony Pettis struggles to not really get taken down. He seems to get taken down pretty much every fight. Justin Gaethje will be a harder opponent to do that. On the feet, honestly, I think that Poirier has the more technical, accurate striking, where Gaethje is just, who knows what he's going to throw. He's got heavy chopping leg kicks, which you have to be very careful with. That could be a big factor in this fight, because if you go back and watch the Jim Miller fight, Jim Miller absolutely destroyed Dustin Poirier with leg kicks, and I do believe that Gaethje is the stronger kicker than Jim Miller. And he kicks right above the ankle, really low on the leg there, and that really takes out your mobility very quickly. That is something I think that he has to implement here, and his wrestling. I think if Poirier can't, in my opinion, Poirier doesn't take leg kicks all that good, so that hopefully he's trained and he's drilled it for this card, for this fight, to not take those big leg kicks, because if he does, he's going to get hurt, and he's going to be in trouble against an absolute madman who can wrestle you, but also throws to take your head off. And we have seen him when he comes forward, sometimes he's a little bit open, and he can take shots. Now, Michael Johnson was a guy, he's got extremely fast hands, and Dustin Poirier, he just caught Dustin Poirier before Poirier could even react or be defensive with his striking there, and got put down. But he's also got big power, and he's a big hitter when he wants to be. That Eddie Alvarez fight is just one that's going to piss me off for a long time, because I had money in Poirier, and I thought he was just about to take that fight out. He was going to take Eddie Alvarez out of that fight, and then it got pulled to a no contest, which really sucked. Thought he rebounded perfectly in that fight with Anthony Pettis, bloodied him up, broke Anthony Pettis, and then I think it was a TKO due to I think it was an injury. But yeah, I'm going to pick Dustin Poirier. That was my initial pick. I bet this fight so long ago. I got him at minus 130, I think it was. I didn't expect the line to actually go the other way, But like I say, as the fights got closer, I'm thinking, have I jumped the gun a little bit? And I did say at the start of the year, I'm not going to bet fights that far in advance, and I kind of didn't listen to my own advice here and jumped on that line really quick, which now I think it might be a mistake, but I can deal with that. It's on me. But I do think he can win. But I've got this sneaky feeling that Gaethje's going to use his wrestling. Now, Poirier is not easy to get down, but I think if he was to put everything into his wrestling, I think Gaetjh could get him down. It's just a great fight. If everybody thinks this fight's going to be a brawl. If this ends up being a brawl, honestly, hand on heart, I have no idea who's going to win that fight, because both guys can get put down, and it's just who lands the shot and who can take the shot better. But I am going to pick Dustin Poirier. I think that the chinks are shown now. Gaetjh is facing the best fighters he's ever fought, who are punch harder, more accurate, more well-rounded than anything he fought when he came into the UFC. Tougher, in my opinion. So I'm going to pick Dustin Poirier. I'm going to pick him via third round TKO victory here. I think it's going to be close. I think there's going to be times when both guys are hurt. But it's who can take the punishment and who can keep coming forward and delivering more punishment. That kind of moves into Justin Gaethje's wheelhouse a little bit, but I think Poirier's got all the advantages of doing that as well, and he has big power. We've seen that in the fights with Bobby Green, and we've seen it back in the day with like Cortney and all that, but have to be careful with Poirier in the ground as well. He's shown that he's got skills on there. That was many moons ago when he did that to Max Holloway. He submitted him there, but that was years ago. But I think he's got enough on the feet. It's a really tough fight. Like I say, I'm kind of contemplating my pick here, thinking I maybe made a wrong pick. I'm happy that I bet Poirier because I think, like I say, I think he'll win. But I think I bet him too far out. I never looked into it enough, and that's on me. That's on me personally. But like we say, I think he's a solid wrestler as well. We've seen that in the Duffy fight where he took him down and controlled him, the Perez fight. I'm going to pick Dustin Poirier. I'm going to pick him via third round TKO victory there. So another one done. That's my fights for UFC Glendale, UFC on Fox, and we're back with another. This card next week is a banger as well from Atlantic City. Edson Barboza against Kevin Lee. Great main event. Frankie Edgar's on there. I'm surprised he's still on there. His father passed away last week. Aljamain Sterling against Brett Johns, a great fight. Branch against Thiago Santos, good fight. Mueller against Hooker, fun fight. Biblatov's back. Sayar's back against Loon Chagas. I like Chagas a lot. I think he's a really solid fighter. And Ricky Simon makes his UFC debut, which I'm really excited to call as well. So that's my picks here for UFC on Fox. Poirier v Gaetjh. As always, thank you for viewing. Let me know your picks in the drop down box below, and I'll hopefully get back to you. I say that every time, and I struggle to because I work through the week and I work really long hours. So if I don't, I apologise, but I will try and hard and do that. On the mission to get to 2,000 followers by the end of the year, so if you can help me with that, tell a friend to subscribe, then by all means. Until next week for the UFC in Atlantic City, I will catch you all then. Enjoy the fights this upcoming weekend, and I will see you very, very soon. Peace.